Hello, how's it going? This is Nickki, and welcome to another afternoon of meditation. Wherever you might be in the world, welcome. So, we are going to get into a topic today, which I'm sure we're all very familiar with, which is our thoughts. Oh, those wonderful thoughts. Do you know that we have between 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day? That's a thought every 1.2 seconds. They're coming. And so while we often don't control the thoughts that are coming in, we can certainly choose how we respond to them, how much attention we give them, how much weight to put on them. So why don't we start off by taking a nice, long, slow, deep breath in to tune in, and we'll discuss more about thoughts. So let's inhale. And let that go. One more time. And let that go. Thanks again for joining me today. As I mentioned, the topic is thoughts. And it's so interesting because as much as we've got these thoughts going on in our heads, we also spend a huge portion of our day, often, on autopilot. How many times have you driven somewhere only to arrive and realize you have no idea how you got there? A little bit scary, right? And imagine all the other people on the road that are having the same or very similar experiences with a very large object and piece of machinery. Or if you've ever sat at your desk or at home with your family and eaten a meal and suddenly looked up and realized, I didn't taste my food, I really don't even remember what I ate, I was completely preoccupied. So there's so much that goes into thoughts, and we, have a limited amount of time to be together today. We'll just touch on a few things though. So as we're here, I think all of us would love a little more calm and taming in our thoughts. And I think one of the mythbusters I'd like to introduce for meditation is that we're supposed to completely clear the mind of these thoughts and go into this Zen-like enlightenment non-space. That may happen every now and then. It's not, certainly in my opinion, the goal of meditation. One of the ways to meditate is simply to see if we can give those thoughts as they come through a little less power. See if we can allow the thoughts, you may have heard this, to float by like clouds. We can think of ourselves as this big sky. Our consciousness, our awareness is all of that blue, is all of that air and space. And the thoughts are the clouds. And sometimes there's a storm cloud and we get really caught up in it and we forget that we're the sky. And yet we are. So I invite you today, as we go into our meditation, to allow the thoughts to come, to non-judgmentally sit with them. And when we remember and when you are coming back into a space of present moment, that you can gracefully allow yourself to realize that there was a thought and come back to the meditation. We'll start off today with a 5 or 10 minute mantra meditation. We'll go into some silence and stillness, repeating a mantra to ourselves. And this often can be a wonderful invitation for lots of thoughts to come in the quiet and the stillness. And that's okay. Those are part of meditation. It's just a matter of bringing yourself back into the moment, gently, non-judgmentally, and allowing yourself to come back to the breath or the mantra. And one of the reasons we use a mantra, man means mantra is the vehicle of the mind. So man means mind, and tra is transportation or transport. And together, it's this mind vehicle. So the mantra helps allow us to focus those thoughts, to provide that safe haven to come back to, that place. And today we'll continue on what we had done last week, which was some intention setting and looking ahead to 2017. And we'll once again get back into that idea of intentions. So as we go into this meditation, really setting a beautiful intention for yourself, for the day, for the month or the year, whatever feels comfortable to you. Go big, go small, have fun with it, enjoy, not too serious here. And we'll repeat a Sanskrit mantra. This first one we'll go very simply with, which is so hum. And so hum in Sanskrit is often translated into I am, or I am that. And what I think is beautiful about this particular mantra is that we are all that. We are our intentions. We are that beauty. And often we just forget. So these moments in stillness and silence are invitations for us to continue unpeeling, revealing, rediscovering, and remembering our true nature. So, when you're ready, feel free to close your eyes, and I'll mind the time, and I'll gently lead us into this space of quiet, of stillness, as we begin to repeat the mantra, so hum. Silently to ourselves. And again, the invitation is to allow thoughts to ebb and flow. Can you bring compassion in? Can you allow these thoughts without resistance? And when you notice that you've left the mantra so hum, that you gently bring yourself back to it again. And that will be this meditation, a gentle ebbing and flowing. The thoughts, the mantra, your breath. These are all tools for us to exercise our mind. And when we wrap up this meditation, we'll discuss a little more about the thoughts and our mind, possibly with a little more calm, maybe with some frustration, maybe with worry or doubt. Allow it all. So hum. Continue repeating this to yourself. So hum. So hum. We'll be here a few minutes and I'll ring a chime when we're ready to wrap up. So hum. So hum. Feel free to take a moment. You can stop repeating the mantra. And when you're ready, feel free to gently open your eyes and come back into the room. At your leisure, returning to us. And taking another nice, long, slow, deep breath in. Exhaling. Thank you for joining in that experiment. There are so many ways that we can be together, create awareness, to be present. Because as we know, so much of the time, we are ruminating on the past and fretting about the future. So much of our day is spent somewhere other than where we actually are. And that's one of the reasons that sitting in silence and taking these time-ins for ourselves can be challenging. It's unfamiliar. And as much as sometimes we are distracted or frustrated by new things, new experiences, it's also that mold that we're able to break out of those old conditioned patterns. Being by being, the bag gets filled. This is a long, ongoing process, a lifelong process, a lifetime of exercise, of ebb and flow. And so being gentle with ourselves and sitting in that discomfort, feeling like we're learning to walk again. That's all part of the journey. So can we just get curious, be investigators, have fun with it, knowing that we'll likely stumble along the way, having uncomfortable experiences. And yet that wiring, those programs that worked for us once upon a time, may no longer serve us. So if we're really ready for transformation, for that long-lasting change, this is one tool to advance that, to move forward. When I mention the phrase, "Don't think of a red truck," what comes to your mind? Likely a red truck. The mind actually doesn't have a construct for knots or negatives. So our thoughts are really important in how we present and run the thoughts in our head, especially when we're on autopilot. We're running the script over and over again that's been playing for years. We often don't realize the power that comes with that. And so some of the invitations today are to really focus and be thoughtful and diligent about the thoughts we allow to play in our heads, about the words that we actually speak into the universe. So changing things from negatives to positives are one really great way of inviting a new paradigm, a new aspect, a new way of thinking in. Oprah Winfrey was interviewed many years ago, and they asked her why she did her work, why she did what she did. And her response was, she couldn't not do it. It was this fuel, this passion, this drive. It was in her. It was what drew her. And then they asked her, why do you work out? And her response was, so I don't have a big butt. Lots of negatives in there. Lots of not wants. When we have a moving toward goal, something that we're striving for, it's limitless. It's got so much potential. When we're moving away from something, there's a finite. Once we've hit it, then we often rebound and go back into our old patterns. Okay, great, we lost X number of pounds, and now there we are, so we get a little comfortable again. Instead, can we often shift from a don't want into how amazing would it be for me to live a healthy and creative lifestyle that includes good food choices and energetic, nutritious food and drink and care that I bring into my body. That can then extend. Maybe the first week you try green juice and you think that's really gross. So the next week you have smoothies that have fruit and maybe spinach in them. And then months later you go and you try the green juice. You've always got potential. You've always got more where you can go. And so really creating a beautiful relationship with yourself, with those thoughts, with how you think to yourself. This beautiful thing up here, I like to think that there's a committee going on. Anyone else have a committee? Likes to chat with us a lot, and that's okay. The question is, can we create a beautiful symbiotic relationship with that? Can we choose for ourselves to be more cognizant of those thoughts and what we give attention to? Just like there's an analogy with the thoughts like clouds, there's also an analogy of standing on a platform at a train station. And the train are thoughts, a thought train. You can jump on anytime you want as the train goes by. And suddenly you may find yourself up a mountain 5 miles away rapidly. Your thought may have started with what you were having for lunch, and the idea of blueberry pancakes enters your mind. And then suddenly that reminds you of this beautiful blueberry that you had when you were on vacation in the Bahamas, which reminds you that you should plan your next vacation and you should call your best friend, which reminds you that you haven't called your mom today, right? The list goes on, and suddenly here we are. And sometimes we forget to check, which train are we on? Do we want to be on this train? And know that there's a doorway. And we can step off of that train when we're ready. We have that ability. So if you'd like, we'll do a short guided meditation. Just noticing some of our thoughts. We might name our thoughts. When we name something, often we're able to discern and categorize it in a way that may have been abstract previously. So when you're ready, let's get comfortable. We'll once again close our eyes and we'll spend a little time together enjoying our thoughts, experiencing our thoughts, being one with our thoughts. So if they're not already, let's gently close our eyelids. Sit comfortably, whatever works for you. And as always, let's take a nice, long, slow, deep breath in. And exhale. And one more time. And let that go. And before we go straight into our thoughts, let's spend a moment feeling our breath, noticing where we're experiencing our breath right now. You may be breathing through your nose or through your mouth. And yet sometimes we feel the breath in other areas of our body. Maybe our chest, possibly through our stomach. Can you sit for a moment and just notice where you feel your body breathing? No need to change anything. Just noticing. Being aware of the breath. And you may have already slipped into various thoughts. Can you name what's floating by or on the train with you right now? Can you allow it to just be a thought without emphasizing? Maybe you're planning or worrying, creating, whatever it is. As you name it, does it change? Have you drifted off onto something else? And if so, can you name that? Notice. Do you have a pattern that seems to emerge? Similar style of thoughts playing out. When one ends, another of the same style fills its place. Nothing to do except notice. Are the thoughts slowing down or speeding up? Are they soft or a little loud? Can you experience these thoughts and realize that maybe the thought is just an invitation, an idea, Maybe it's not true. Do all thoughts automatically mean they are true? Are they all facts? Is it possible these thoughts are a combination of stories created over time, ways of coping with emotion, possibly easing yourself out of fear and dread, resisting. Thoughts are incredible. They are what give us the space to lead these incredible, complex lives. Can we take this time and give gratitude to our mind for its incredible, complex system that works diligently, constantly? Can we have an appreciation for all of the mechanics that work while we're busy coming up with our next thought? There's so much else running in the background. All of the blood pumping through our body, all of the chemicals sending signals to each other, making sure we're in homeostasis and balance, freeing us up so we don't have to think about things like how we take a step. Most of us do this automatically. With wonder and awe, can we appreciate all the thoughts that we have that we're aware of? All the thoughts that have come before and shaped us today. All the thoughts that are still to come. Knowing that we have 60 to 80,000 beautiful thoughts a day. Creating an invitation to allow those thoughts to be on a more positive spectrum. To invite thoughts that nurture us. To cultivate thoughts that engage us and intrigue us and bring out the best in our curious and investigative nature. So once again, when you're ready, feel free to take a nice, long, slow, deep breath in. And let that go. Just knowing that there is a deeper reason and purpose for all of these thoughts. Feel free to open your eyes when you're ready. To come back wherever you may be. Knowing with gratitude and appreciation how fortunate we are to have thoughts. Even though they may not always be the ones we're wanting. Even though There are still some that will play on autopilot. One of the ways we can encourage and shift our thoughts is through asking empowering questions. Empowering questions allow us to ask open-ended questions, creating a new pattern for thoughts to enter our mind. For example, how can I be even more thoughtful and considerate of others today? In asking the question in this way, how, open-ended, allowing, invitational, can I be even more? Even more reminds us that we already are. And even though sometimes we have these moments and may feel selfish or not giving enough, that's a moment. That's an action. It was a split second in time. At our core, we still have all of that beauty and goodness and caring and consideration and compassion. So when we ask, how can I have even more? We are reminding and acknowledging ourselves that we already do. And then you fill in the blank. So how can I be even more mindful today of my time? So if you struggle with time management or arriving late, you might provide an invitation to create a new way of looking and a new relationship with time. You can also use it with other questions such as, what could I do today that would bring even more joy and happiness into my life? And sometimes when we ask a question that way, especially if we decide to sit and listen for an answer as opposed to forcing the standard answer we're accustomed to, we might realize that a surprising result appears, a new option. So often we live in a frame like this, and there is so much more going on beyond what we see and feel, and often a simple slight shift in perspective now allows us to see from this vantage point. From a scientific perspective, we have millions of bits of information coming at us all day, every second. And we really can only handle 5 to 7 to 9 bits of information at any given moment. So we often are focused based on our thoughts on what we then pick up and perceive in that moment. There may be a beautiful rose off to the side, and if you're focused on where is my car parked, I need to get to my car, you may not be noticing the rose. Whereas another day, you may go out for a walk just to get some exercise, or because it's been raining for days and you'd like a little sunshine, some vitamin D. And on that day, maybe you notice the rose. One of the invitations for today in taming our thoughts and looking at our thoughts from a new perspective is, can you still be walking to your car and notice the rose? Is it possible to be open enough to allow yourself that gift, rather than constantly being focused on just one or two things that are the replay that you've been playing over and over again? Are you able to stay open so that when beautiful surprises happen, you can catch them? And that can make all the difference. A few more stats just to drown you with this data, although I find it fascinating. Even if all of this doesn't stick consciously, it's going into the beautiful subconscious. In addition to our 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, we repeat most of our thoughts day after day, 90% of the time. So each day there's very few new thoughts actually coming in. And unfortunately, in many instances, about 80% of those thoughts are negative. And a lot of that has to do with our natural progression and evolution. We obviously started out being chased by lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and in that, the amygdala, one of the central parts up in the brain, has a flight or fight mechanism, and it's incredibly important for our survival. However, in today's world, we no longer need to worry about lions and tigers in most instances. Often it's emails filling up your inbox. It's phone calls from a boss. It's challenging conversations with your loved ones and miscommunication. So when we go into our moments of silence and stillness, we're really working to invite new ways of having the mind reconnect, readjust. And maybe the next time your inbox is full, you won't have such a panic attack that it's got 100 messages in it. Maybe you'll be able to sit with that a little more calmly. And again, a process. All of this is a big, beautiful process. So I hope you've enjoyed what we've gone through today. Thoughts will always be there. 60 to 80,000 a day. We may be able to slow them down a bit. Can we give them less thought? Can we continue to allow them to float by? Can we allow ourselves a little space to become the observer so that when they arrive, we might be able to step back and see them from a more objective viewpoint, non-judgmentally, maybe even with compassion and gratitude and appreciation. And I send all of you my gratitude and appreciation for sharing this time with me today. Namaste.